Hello, you wonderful and beautiful people of the internet. This is Joe.
And Ulysses, who's older.
And Balanz. Hey, look, we don't have to get into that right now. Fun fact, everyone always wonders who of us is the older one. And whenever people don't know, we always go up to them and say, like, okay, guess which one of us is older. They always pick me for some reason.
Even though I'm 5 years older. I guess I must have a more youthful face or something.
Does that mean I look like an old man?
You look like you're 60. I look like I'm 16.
That's, you know what, we're going to move on. Ulysses, right now I'm currently, we're at our parents' house recording this on our dad's microphone, and I am staying here for the week looking after our dogs. And funny thing, Merlin is not a great sleeping companion.
I mean, he's, the size of the bed.
That, and he'll just randomly flip out in the middle of the night and start barking for no gosh dang reason. And if the tiredness is coming out of my voice, that's why. But today we're going to be talking about movies that shaped us. Movies that, I guess, influenced us growing up or even recently. I think I want to go more in the direction of movies that sort of influenced us as we were more growing up in more of our developmental years, I guess.
Well, first off, I have to say, like, every single Disney movie, the reason I say that is because, our family growing up, we had cable for a little while, and then my parents cut it. And so our only entertainment as far as movies and TV shows went was whatever was on the shelf, whatever VHS we had. And we had tons and tons of VHSs. And then when DVDs came along, we were kind of late to that game, but we had DVDs and...
that reminds me of how Dad would just go to Walmart to like the bargain bin and pick out whatever the
random crap, like how did this get made.
He'd like pick out like the most niche of indie films that no one's ever heard of and no one ever will hear of. And so I'd say a healthy dosing of that was largely what consisted of our entertainment growing up, whether we liked it or not.
Yeah, with some of our siblings, we could literally quote whole movies because we would just rewatch movies over and over again.
So yeah, definitely. I mean, that's like everyone, right? Everyone grew up on Disney. It's pretty cliche, but it's true. Like, Disney had a hand in raising us largely. A lot of those classics like Mulan, The Lion King, Aladdin, just things like that. They were part of what introduced us to movies as young kids. And that's part of really the appeal of Disney is a lot of their movies are high quality, but you can, show them to your kids and your kids. That's a lot of the entertainment, like the first entertainment that they will behold with their little child eyes.
Unless you're my daughter, then you watched the Avengers when you were 3 months old.
And that's parenting done right, Ulysses. We can't talk about growing up in the early 2000s, late 90s, and like not bring up the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because that was just such an event, really. I remember watching Lord of the Rings as a really young kid, maybe 6 or 7. Maybe even younger, but it was just mind-blowing. Like, even as a kid, I could remember thinking, like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. This is crazy. And, as an adult, I go back to those movies and I appreciate them even more.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Lord of the Rings was definitely something very different, especially since, we were just talking about we watched a lot of Disney movies. And so, it was quite the change, quite the event, quite the trilogy.
It got intense, man. Those were intense movies to show to a little kid, but I'm glad our parents let us watch them because there are so many great themes in those movies, as well as just it's just a great example of what movies can do. And I think that was probably one of the earliest instances that I actually consciously thought about like the process behind the movies, not just the movies themselves, like, oh, this is great, but like, man, this is a piece of art. This is something that someone created so beautifully, and I just appreciate that. And I kind of, I guess maybe that planted the seeds early on. Like I kind of want to be able to make stuff like that myself. I don't know about you.
Well, if we're talking about classics, then I don't remember if this came out the late 90s or early 2000s, but definitely Pokemon, the first movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a piece of art right there.
No, in all seriousness, well, I can't even say that word. No, in all seriousness.
Yeah, seriousness. Sirius Black.
Sirius Black. Okay.
In all Sirius Black, you what?
The other movies I was going to mention were, so not like the OOG, but kind of the OG of the early 2000 Marvel movies, back before Marvel, owned stuff, or at least owned more of their stuff. Like the first X-Men, couple X-Men movies, and
the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love those.
Those, along with Lord of the Rings, those are some of probably the earliest instances that I can remember watching a movie. In fact, I think one of the earliest instances I can recall, probably not the first time I'd ever been to a movie theater, but like the first, as far back as I can remember personally, my first instance of going to the movie theater that I can remember was that first Spider-Man movie. I remember us going in and me looking up at the poster and thinking, wow, he's just freaking crawling up the side of that building. That's pretty incredible. That's cool. I like that. I also remember thinking, so does he like have 8 legs, or what am I supposed to expect here? I had no idea.
Yeah, for me it was pretty awesome since I had grown up, as a child, watching the X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons, and so that was awesome. Seeing those two franchises, well, those two superhero groups, on the big screen. That was just, to me, amazing.
I mean, that was like the first time that superhero movies were like, maybe not the first time, but one of the first times that superheroes were really taken seriously in movies, I think. Like, of course, we had Batman from the 90s, up until those got crazy. But for the most part, superheroes were very, I don't know, maybe looked down upon because of their comic book origins, I guess. But those movies like X-Men, Spider-Man, before then, I guess Blade, they really showed a movie-going audience what superhero movies could be. They were what ushered in
the groundwork. They laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
I think, for
they ushered in the renaissance of superhero films, which we see with, I think we saw furthermore with the Dark Knight trilogy and then the MCU. Segue. Of course, Marvel movies greatly impacted my life. I know they've impacted yours, but I remember watching Iron Man for the first time in the movie theater. You had gone to see it beforehand, but you told us, "Hey, Mom, Dad, you got to watch this movie. It's great. It's really fantastic." And I remember going in and thinking, "Oh man, that's a pretty good movie right there. That's not just like a good superhero movie. That's just a good movie." And then, of course, with the whole Nick Fury at the end. At that point, I knew what S.H.I.E.L.D. was. I knew who Nick Fury was, and that blew my mind. I was thinking, are they actually gonna get Tobey Maguire and and Hugh Jackman into all these movies? That was before I realized the whole rights issues and everything. And I was a little sad about that. But in hindsight, that was probably for the best.
Although, speaking of Hugh Jackman, just switching up, we've been talking about, superheroes and action movies and whatnot. Actually, a more recent musical, and not to get too much into this because I could probably talk about this for like 20 minutes. But a couple years ago, or was it a couple years ago? Yeah, it's about a year.
That was like 2016.
So yeah. No, that wasn't 2016.
2017.
27? I don't know. Recently, a little movie called The Greatest Showman came out. And I know some people hated it. Some people loved it. Some people were like, meh. People were like, it's not historically correct. I don't really care. So the movie itself, I So real quick backstory. My wife and I, we were planning to see a different movie that was
But
full.
Ulysses, the great movie Mulan, is extremely historically correct.
Okay, yeah. So my wife and I we were planning on watching a different movie. That movie was full, so we went to go see this movie that we had no idea what it was about. I didn't even realize that it was a musical. And so when it started and everyone was singing, I was like, oh, that's a kind of a cool intro. And then they kept singing. I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. But long story short, just watching that movie. So I was actually in the middle of starting a career as a financial consultant. And, you know, I had like pretty much my whole thought was just going down that path and whatnot. And then I went and saw The Greatest Showman. Man, it gave me all kinds of emotions. I was feeling things and I was like, holy crap, I gotta go make movies. And so like that movie, honestly, like we're talking about movies that shaped us as children and whatnot, but that movie absolutely like changed my life. Like within a few months, I had completely shifted my career path. My thoughts, my ideas were just utterly changed, going back to my childhood dream of making movies and videos and doing things that I love instead of just doing things that I thought was going to make me money. Although I do like making money.
Yes, you do. I do too. It's okay. He's not exaggerating when he says that. Like, it was almost a complete 180. I remember after he watched that movie, he was gushing about it, talking about just how much he was inspired to want to make movies again after, because we had both considered that as a career option earlier on. For even as kids, for a while, we were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to make movies? But I don't know. After a certain amount of college, I don't know, maybe we both got bored of the idea for a sec. And we were like, man, this probably isn't a viable career option for, at least for me.
Well, I mean, you tell someone when you're 12, oh, I want to make movies. They're like, oh, that's cute. You tell someone when you're 22, I want to make movies. They're like, get a real job.
Yeah. And also for me personally, I was just a little scared.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let me, if I can just interject real quick. I mean, that definitely played into it. I mean, for me especially, you have to kind of understand. So I'm married. I have a 2-year-old daughter. You know, we got a car loan. I mean, we got to pay the bills. So it's not like I can just go and make movies for free. You know, obviously I still got to be doing things. And so it's making, like, filmmaking is definitely one of those careers that it has its ups and downs. You're gonna, you got to put a lot of effort into it before you start seeing a lot of fruit. And so I think definitely for that reason, it's not one of those things where it's like, okay, you go to college and then you just go and get this job and you have a retirement plan and whatnot. And not that even having a job is guarantees anything, but that's a whole nother topic in and of itself.
Yeah, so I think a lot of that, maybe just different mounting fears for both of us, kind of deterred us from chasing the whole filmmaking thing. We both sort of gave up on it for a little bit. But I remember after you watched Greatest Showman, and I liked the movie a lot myself, but for you it was like groundbreaking. It was life-changing. It really got to you in a way that I could tell, like, inspired you to want to chase this career path once again. And because of your enthusiasm, I guess I found that infectious, and it reminded me of how much I love storytelling and how much I wanted. For most of my life, I thought I was just going to be a novelist. And there's nothing wrong if that's all you want to be as a novelist. Like, I got nothing against that. I still write novels. But I guess I realized that I wanted to do more than that. After this whole transformation with you, I thought, why can't I do both, right? Because I think part of life is realizing, I guess, what you want to do, but also realizing the full capacity of what you can do. And I was just placing a lot of limitations on myself, and you sort of helped me break out of that and think, okay, I've got my brother. We both want to do this. If we're united, we can probably do some freaking awesome stuff. And we're still discovering that ourselves. But like to bring it back full circle, we have The Greatest Showman to thank for that in a way.
So thank you, Hugh Jackman. And just to, because it's interesting, because you just said chasing that. It maybe 20 years ago you had to go chase a film career, but you know how easy it is to make a movie now. I mean, not necessarily like make a movie like the Avengers, but I mean, if you really want to make videos, dude, if you have a smartphone, are you kidding me? You don't have to chase anything. You make something with your smartphone and your friends over the weekend, and you throw it up on YouTube. I mean, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be, like a famous filmmaker or anything, but it's so much practical today than it ever was. Like, I think there's still so many people who think, oh man, I gotta go to Hollywood, I gotta do all this stuff, I gotta go film school. Are you kidding me? Just go take your phone and still start filming stuff. Like, it's so easy to start doing. I mean, we've made 2 short films. I mean, those were took a little more time to do. And also we don't have a lot of time, but
yeah. I
mean, we made 2 short films with like no money.
Yeah, those were basically zero budget, and they've come out rather well. Not to pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, and the first one was all right. Second one's better, and the third one's probably going to be even better. And I mean, it's just a matter of going out there and starting to put in the work.
And I think a lot of that is taking just an honest full stock of what you have available to you, because I don't think a lot of people. I think it's a lot easier to get stuff done than people give credit for. I think people just aren't naturally all good at being resourceful. And I think it's that resourcefulness that is really going to get you places more than just being born a certain way or suddenly landing in a position of high power or suddenly having a ton of money or all of that. Man, we're just too... not even college kids that have a dream and that are starting from kind of not the direct bottom, but kind of the bottom just up, working with what we have and making it work when it doesn't seem on the outset it might work. You kind of just got to figure these things out as you go along. And a lot of that comes from the experience. And speaking of 2 small-time people with a dream, if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe, and also kind of find us on Facebook and Instagram. We'll be putting those up on the video if you're watching this on YouTube. It really does help. So help us small-time creators with big dreams.
My daughter needs food.
So to get back on track with more films that maybe shaped us or inspired us early on or even recently, I mean, I'd be remiss, and this is both a novel, and a movie, but I'd be remiss not talking about Harry Potter at some point in this podcast, because I think everyone and their mom in our generation was somehow shaped by Harry Potter. Even people who don't like Harry Potter were somehow influenced by Harry Potter. You still can't avoid Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. You're really the one who got me into Harry Potter, because it was you and our sister Laurie that I think first got into the books.
I actually, so funny quick story about Harry Potter. I actually had the first 5 books. Never read them. My mom kept buying them for me because I think I pretended to read them, or I don't know why I had them. But for
fake fan.
Yeah, I was a fake fan. I was a fake fan.
Fran.
Or I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, so I actually saw the first Harry Potter movie in theaters, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go read these books.
Yeah. So, it relates again. The movie. It can sometimes inspire you to go out and do things like read a book. How about that? Take that, film industry. I don't know what I'm saying. It is funny, as a side note, when people talk about how books are just going to go away at some point. Like, there's always been doomsayers ever since I think television came out, that like, this is going to kill the literary industry or whatever. But like, nah, dude. Books are never going to go away completely. They might have a low point at some point, like bookstores might shut down, but there will always be a means and a way and an audience for people who want to read books as well as people who want to watch movies. They're just 2 different mediums, and I think they're both equally important and unique in their own way. They really both bring their own touch to storytelling, and I love them both equally.
Yeah, like I honestly, I prefer watching videos or movies, But I mean, I still also love to read, and so I mean, books might take a different form. They might be an ebook, but yeah, I don't think books are ever gonna truly go away.
A lot of people are getting into audiobooks these days, I've noticed. If only Audible would have sponsored this video, that would be something. One day, Audible, hey, if you're listening, I know you are. So yeah, Harry Potter had a big impact on us. I think part of the impact of Harry Potter was it had done something that no other series had done before. It grew up with the audience.
And the actors.
And the actors, yeah.
And actually worked really well. Not like when you have those child actors that all of a sudden they're like, go through puberty.
Stranger Things cast, watch out. Yeah, so I think part of the magic of Harry Potter, other than the literal magic, was that these characters...
you grew up with them.
You grew up with them. Like, when you were in middle school, you relate to Harry while he was in middle school, or middle school age. And then he became a teenager and started liking girls around the same time. A lot of the audience did. And then, he became an adult around the same time the audience did. And if you notice, the books get more and more serious as they go along, and the movies. And that kind of corresponded with maybe the way that people grow up and they kind of realize the world around them might be a little more complicated than they once believed, or they're facing more challenges than they used to. And so, yeah, I'd say Harry Potter definitely had a hand in raising the two of us. I think we're going to wrap up, but any other final maybe shout outs, movies, anything? The Prince of Egypt. I liked that one. Still like it.
Prince of Egypt was fantastic. Oh my gosh.
It still is pretty great.
The OG Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh yeah, those like the puppets. Dude, I didn't even realize how horrible the third one was at the time, but I still liked those movies quite a bit.
Should have won an Oscar.
Should have won an Oscar for that time travel and those out of sync mouths to the voices. We watched a lot of bad movies growing up, man. Like, just terrible, awful, trash movies that I probably loved at the time and would never revisit, because who has the time for that?
Honestly, so many different movies. Like, we probably easily watched thousands of movies growing between the ages of like 5 and 18.
Yeah, this goes back to Disney, but The Incredibles, love that movie. Love everything about it. Don't like the sequel. Anyway, this has been the Balanz podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And I already did all the plug-in stuff, so hopefully you've liked this by now. If you haven't, what are you still doing, man? Like the video, share it with your friends. This has been the Balanzategui brothers.
Be sure to check out our other channels, Joe Lies Down, and my namesake,
Ulysses Balanzategui. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Farewell.